Welcome back to the ECG learning course. Today we'll talk about a very important topic. This topic usually confuses medical students and is really very important, which is QRS complex nomenclature. Now, please note that this topic is really important as a medical student in your shelf exams. Number two is really very important if you want to conduct a research, write an abstract or a case report or an analytical study, and you want to correctly identify the shape of the QRS complex. So you will use these terms. Okay, I will try to simplify this topic as much as possible. And after this small short video, you will be able to name literally any QRS complex you will face during ECG encounters. Okay, let's start with our three rules to name QRS complex. The first rule is the initial deflection in the QRS complex, if it is negative, what does negative mean? That means it's below baseline, okay? And in video number 3, we'll talk about the isoelectric line and knows what is how to precisely detect or determine the baseline. So if their initial deflection is below the baseline, that means it's negative, this wave is called Q wave. Now, the first positive deflection of the QRS complex is always called R wave. Now, the next negative deflection that comes after the R wave is called the S wave. Now, from these three rules, we can extrapolate some more information. The first information is, whenever you find a positive wave, this is by definition is an R wave. R wave is always positive, and any positive complex is an R wave, okay? Now, S wave is the negative deflection after the R wave. So you will never find an S wave without an R wave, okay? So you will always have an R wave preceding the S wave, okay? So they are coming together. This is important information. Okay, so we will use these three information and these three rules to apply for any QRS complex. Now, let's go very basic from here. If you can see, this is a QRS complex. Okay, so look here, this is the first negative deflection. And it is not preceded by any positive deflection. There is no positive deflection in the QRS complex. So this is by definition called the Q wave. Okay, what is this? This is the positive deflection here. So this is R wave by definition. And this negative deflection that comes after the R wave is always called S wave. Please note that whenever you have an R, after that you will never, ever have a Q wave. Okay? So this is nomenclature rules that is by definition set for all over the world. So it's very conventional. So if you have an R wave, you never have a Q wave after that. Okay. Additional steps, which is really very important, that these additional steps will help you read any QRS complex. First step is, if the entire QRS complex is positive, the wave will be called R wave, simply R wave. Okay, very simple. But if the entire complex is negative, you can't say it is a Q wave. It will be QS wave. So Q wave cannot come alone. Okay, so if you have only a negative deflection, okay, it's called QS wave. Actually, some references says if the Q wave is very small, if the negative deflection is very small, we can say it's only Q wave. But if it is long enough, that will be termed as a QS wave. Okay, but we will, for major exams and for abstract writing and case reports writing and analytical studies, we use a QS term for a negative deflection. All right, this is very important as well. We can have multiple R waves as we will see now, and multiple S waves, but you always will have only one Q wave, if any. So Q wave could be present and could be absent. It does not matter, but if it is present, it is only one Q wave. But R waves and S waves, you can have plenty of them. Second R wave is also called R, but we add this prime to it. So the second R wave says R, it's called R prime. The third R wave will say it will be called R double prime, R triple prime, and so on. Okay? And if there is more than one R wave, we can actually compare the size of them. The smaller R wave, if there is more than one R wave, S wave should be in between. Okay, so if you have two R waves, there is a must. It is a must to have an S wave in between. You can't have RR inconsecutive. You have to have an S wave in between. And the last rule is, or the last step here, if you have more than one R, you can compare the size of these R's. The larger R is called R capital, and you write it as R capital, and the smaller R will be called R small. Okay. Now let's apply these rules to our QRS complexes here. So I will give you variety of examples, and you have to test yourself. So feel free to pause the video to try to test yourself. So what is the name of this complex? We can see there is a Q wave because it's negative deflection here. So it is a Q, R, and S. So this is a QRS complex. And look here, the R will be capital because it is only one R and it's large. Okay. Let's take the other example here. What about this one? Look here, guys. You don't have a negative deflection first, so you start with a positive deflection. So this positive deflection, by definition, is R capital. And after that, you go down with another upward positive deflection. So there is another R. And this R is actually still large, right? It's still large. So there is another R, but you can't have two R's consecutive after each other. You should have an S wave in between. And actually, this is the S wave here. Okay, this is the S wave here. So this is called RSR. And then the second R will be R prime. Okay, RSR prime. Okay, what about this one? This is much easy. We have a R here, and it's actually tiny. So you can say R or R small. I use R small here, and there is S. So RS. This is the complex here. Okay, what about this one? It's much easy. It's the same thing. It's R capital and S. Look here, the difference. The R wave is really longer here. So the letter will be in capital. So it will be RS. Okay, what about this one? This is much complex one, but it should be easy. So we have a Q wave here, right? This is the first negative deflection. So I have a Q wave. After that, I have an R that is really large. So it is R capital. Going down, this is the S wave that we talked about. So you have S. And after that, you go above again. You go up again, you have another R. And after that, you go down again, you will have S. So this is called QRS-RS complex. Okay. What about this complex? This simple complex is called R because it's only one positive deflection. And this one will be called QR capital. Okay, so it's called QR capital. Okay, this one, as we said, one of the steps, you can't say this is a Q wave. You can say this is a QS wave. Okay, this is QS wave. And this one is easy as well. You have a long Q here, right? And after that, you have a small r. So QR small. QR small. All right. What about this complex that seems really complex? There is a Q wave first. This is the negative deflection. You have an R, and this R is shorter than this R. Look here, the difference in the length. So this one would be R small. Oh, by the way, here in this complex, the second R will be called prime, and the second S will be called S prime. So it's QRS R prime S prime. Okay. let's go back to this example here. So we have a Q, R small, after that we have S, and after that we have a large R, R capital, and it will be prime. Okay. And what about this complex as well? It's much easy. It's very easy now. We know our rules. This is the Q wave. And after that, you have this R, which is tiny r. So it will be small r, r small. And after that, you will have S. So it is Q R small S. Okay. It's really important to look for the magnitude of each wave, especially the R wave, because you should say either R capital or R small when you write your papers. Okay, and or when you're describing your EKG findings. Okay, what about this QRS complex here? If we can see, we have a Q wave first, and after that there is a small r, and after that there is a deep S, so a capital S as well. So it is QRS. Okay, what's the difference between this this QRS complex and this one? Actually, nothing. Okay, actually nothing. They are the same with a small r wave. Okay, we usually don't use the small q. Okay, so you should not use it. We use only R capital or R small, and that's it. Okay. Although some reference textbook says we can use a Q small for the small Q waves, but it could be very complicated and will be confusing. And the last thing, guys, what is the name of this QRS complex? Just think about it. Take a good time thinking about it, and please write it in the comments below. And thank you for watching this video.